Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OYLPN Adult Ally Training and Technical Assistance Welcome webinar. We're very, very happy to have you join us today. We have on the call myself, Haram Ellis. I'm the Director of OYLPN and the Director of Youth-Led Programming at Prevention Action Alliance. I'm going to let Valerie and Jessica introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, this is Valerie Leach and I am with the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services in the Office of Prevention.
And I'm Jessica Kalura. I am a research associate at Ohio University's Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs.
Great. So just a few housekeeping things as we go through our webinar today. If you have any questions, there will be a question and answer period at the end, but if you're having trouble hearing or something like that, you do have a chat box, a questions box where you can input your questions and I'll be able to see them and respond to them. Anything else? I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, thanks, Haram. Again, this is Valerie Leach with Mental Health and Addiction Services. And I wanted to provide an overview and some of the history behind where we're at today and how we came to offering this series of trainings for youth-led programs in Ohio. So around 2009, we started utilizing the Institute of Medicine's report on preventing mental and emotional and behavioral disorders among our young people, as well as the Strategic Prevention Framework in 2011. So there was a lot of shifting happening in our state around how we were providing prevention services at the state and local levels. There was somewhat of a disruption, but we know when there's a disruption in the field, that often leads to great things, and this is a great example of that. So with the Strategic Prevention Framework, what we were learning that it really had an impact on community level change because we were truly looking at data and engaging in a process that all of our decisions here at the state level and locally were grounded in that data. So we were really trying to infuse the Strategic Prevention Framework, that planning process, into everything that we were doing around prevention. Next slide here. So at the same time, we began thinking about all of the youth-led programs that we have in the state and the strong history we have of this work, which from my perspective is the strongest anywhere. And we knew that there was a lot more to youth-led programs than what communities were seeing. And we wanted to find a way to ground youth-led programs in the science. How do we shift from, just having one-time events and celebrations to really having an impact, not only those individual young people engaging in our program, but how can those young people create community-level change, whether it's in their school, community, wherever they felt there was a need to address some social issue. Next slide. So as we are having these conversations with adult allies throughout the state who'd been, part of Youth-Led for a long time and working with Ohio University and Prevention Action Alliance, we were trying to figure things out. And then in fiscal year 2016, Governor Kasich's office provided a large amount of funding for prevention efforts to our department, and we were able to secure $1 million to really advance youth-led work in Ohio. And that's kind of where we got the ball rolling in developing the foundation, the science, and helping adult allies get trained in these models to really show how effective these programs truly are and to get those community level outcomes that the field just needs right now. Next slide. So with that, we learned a lot of lessons, and based on those lessons of what would work, what wouldn't work, we were really able to take that feedback we received from adults and turn it into this amazing opportunity and vision for youth-led programs in Ohio. Next slide. So what we came to find was that these programs are really a way to impact the social, emotional, and behavioral health needs of all young people, while at the same time preparing them for becoming young adults. And we know that we're not only trying to reach those, those young people who are already highly active, but this work is critical to those young people who may not be as highly active. Identifying those other opportunity youth and bringing them into the fold to help them develop and increase their knowledge, skills, and abilities as well. And a lot of our vision and support also came from the Forum for Youth Investment. If we'll go ahead to the next slide, we had Karen Pittman, the CEO of that organization, come into Ohio. And she made a statement that day that it's not about coming together, but it's about having an impact. And we truly believe that by not only just bringing young people together, but teaching them those skills, providing them with more knowledge, and giving them those opportunities to lead and have their voice heard was key to youth-led programs. And so with that, I believe I'm going to pass it over to Jessica from Ohio University, who will talk about that overarching goal and what came out of that.
Thanks, Valerie. So as Valerie was explaining, we've been on this journey for many years. And as part of this journey, we've engaged in many conversations with adult allies, which is the term that we use to define or label, or that we use to refer to the adults that work with youth-led programs in Ohio. And through these conversations with the adult allies, as we started to look at the science behind youth-led programs and the practices that were occurring in the field, we just mutually defined what the overarching goal of youth-led programs in Ohio is. And where consensus was built is that the real goal of youth-led programs is for young people to engage in the strategic prevention framework, which is the framework that Valerie was mentioning before. Sometimes we also just say more broadly a strategic planning process, because we know people who are coming from different fields may have similar models to the strategic prevention framework. So ultimately, we're about young people engaging in the strategic planning process with the goal of having them create and implement a strategic plan that uses evidence-based strategies, so strategies that are proven to work in the field, with the ultimate goal of creating community-level change, which Valerie was mentioning before is kind of the ultimate goal of the work that we're doing in the field of prevention. Is how are we creating that community-level change? You'll see on the next slide, we had many conversations with adult allies, and we acknowledged and kind of identified that youth-led programs do a lot of things and may be involved in a lot of different activities. So we know that some youth-led programs host leadership retreats. OYLPN's Youth Council, for example, hosts the We Are the Majority rally, which some of you may have participated in the past with your young people. We also know that some youth-led programs focus and have some activities pertaining to community service. But what we agreed to is that while these alternative activities may be occurring as part of the work of your youth-led program, the true heart and soul of youth-led programs and what unites us in Ohio is this overarching goal that we're all engaged in. And we've also found through our work over the past several years that as young people begin engaging in this strategic planning process, they also become more selective about the additional opportunities in which they want to engage. So this gives them an opportunity to really define a problem that they want to address in their community, and then determine the strategic steps they're going to take to address that problem and create that community level change. And often as part of that process and as part of those conversations, they may determine that some of the activities aren't necessarily that they might not have time for them, or they might tweak those activities in some ways to make sure that when they're doing a rally or that when they're hosting a leadership retreat, it is in some way linked to their overarching goal or problem that they're focusing on. So we have been really lucky in the state of Ohio over the past several years to see the significant impact that young people can have around a variety of issues. And one of the things that we've learned, and Hiram, you can advance to the next slide, please, is that it takes really, really strong adult allies in order for young people to go out and create this type of community change. I think oftentimes because the title is a youth-led program, we may have adults at first, and this is what we've experienced, that we had a lot of adults who may think, well, my responsibility is just to get out of the way because this is about young people leading. And while this is certainly about young people leading, what we have found and what the research base also supports is that it actually takes really strong leadership from an adult ally who's also really thoughtfully planned for what their goal is and how they're going to work with young people in order for young people to really develop those necessary knowledge, skills, and attitudes to go out and create community level change and engage in this strategic planning process. So the way that we typically describe youth-led programs and the role of the adult ally is that the adult ally is really doing a dance. So there are times when the adult allies need to step forward and really provide some sort of structure and vision for the program and the work that is being done, and really effectively work to develop those skills and knowledge and attitudes in young people. And then, of course, there are times when adults need to step back, and it's really a hard task to learn how to tango, right? Like, how do you know when you are supposed to step forward and when you are supposed to step back, and how are you, as an adult, really guiding young people in this process? What resources and tools are available for you as you're trying to determine how to plan for your work with them so that they can ultimately be successful in their communities? And what we found is that there's not necessarily a manual or a curriculum that we can provide to adult allies of youth-led programs in order for them to effectively engage in this dance and guide their young people. But what we are able to provide is frameworks that, again, are evidence-based, that have been shown to be effective. Valerie briefly mentioned during her introduction the strategic prevention framework, and you all will hear a lot more about the strategic prevention framework as we go through the training academies. And I also am aware that all of you may have I know all of you received the youth-led programs white paper, where the strategic prevention framework was explained in a little bit more detail and how we use it in relationship to youth-led programs. So that's one framework that we use to inform the work that you all do with your young people. Another very critical framework that we use is referred to as the Youth Empowerment Conceptual Framework. And again, this is a framework that was referred to in the white paper that you all reviewed prior to this webinar. And what the Youth Empowerment Conceptual Framework really does for us is it helps us define the processes that we as adult allies need to be considering and thinking about in order to effectively engage young people in this strategic planning process. So what you'll find during the training academies is that we focus heavily on these two frameworks, but we focus heavily on the frameworks in terms of what do they mean for you as a practitioner? How are these frameworks useful in practice? And how can you use these frameworks to inform the work that you do with young people and to really effectively plan for the work that you do with young people? So at the training academies, which Hiram will talk in more detail about the dates of those and the timing and everything, there are 4 of them this year. And when you attend the training academies, what you can expect are conversations and very active learning and collaboration around these different frameworks that ultimately are designed to help you as the adult allies play that strong guidance role that we have found is so critical to the ultimate success of youth-led programs. During the training academies, you will also have an opportunity to meet with your technical assistance provider. So you'll attend 4 training academies, but a lot of the work happens in between the training sessions. And that work occurs with your technical assistance provider, who really helps you to further translate these 2 frameworks into action. So this whole first year and the sequence in which you'll engage in, both with the training academies and the technical assistance process, is really designed to allow you all to have the time needed to effectively plan so that you can achieve that overarching goal of youth-led programs, which is ultimately about engaging your young people in this strategic planning process so that they can go out in their communities and create that community-level change. As a result of participating in this learning opportunity, you will develop 3 final products. And these final products are really meant to be, again, useful to you all as you determine how best to work with your young people. So one of the first tools that you will be working on, and again, this will be in between sessions with assistance from your technical assistance provider, but we'll certainly have conversations around during the training academies as well, is what we refer to as an adult-driven individual and group strategic plan map. And don't be concerned, because I'm sure right now, if you're looking at your screen, it looks like a very large document and very convoluted that does not yet have a lot of meaning. But what this essentially is a planning tool where you will start to define, what is it that I'm hoping, if I want my young people to achieve this goal that youth-led programs in Ohio have, what are the necessary knowledge, skills, and attitudes that I need to start developing in my young people? And again, the frameworks that we use to inform youth-led programs are a resource to help you begin to identify some of the terms and language that might be helpful that you would want to think about when you are trying to ultimately empower your young people to create this change. So we use those resources, but then you also tailor your plan, because we know that young people come with a varying level of skills and experiences. So each adult ally ultimately tailors what their plan is going to look like based on the young people that they have currently involved in their youth-led program. We've also found this to be particularly effective for adult allies who may just be beginning to start a youth-led program, because what it helps them to do is really define the purpose of the group, which has been shown to be a really useful way to recruit more young people to participate. So the training and technical assistance process is really designed for novices and experts alike, and has been, we've kind of learned and heard back from the field, it can be useful for a variety of reasons, either for kind of that pre-planning phase when you're just getting ready to work with youth, or for people who have a youth-led program that's been up and running for years and years and years, to really reflect and define their program a little bit more. Sometimes they choose to make alterations to it based on what they're hearing their peers and colleagues do. So this is one of the first final products that we'll start working on, and I can assure you that once you've participated in the training academies and had conversations with that individualized attention from your TA provider, this document will make great sense to you and will be a valuable tool moving forward as you plan and work with your young people. Another document that is developed during the TTA process, which is how we refer to for short the training and technical assistance process, is what we refer to as a group narrative. And the purpose of the group narrative is really to clearly articulate how your program is enacting these 2 frameworks in practice. And the reason this matters is because it gives a very clear definition and purpose to your program. And what we've heard from adult allies is that this is also a really useful tool to have when future funding opportunities become available, because you have everything so clearly defined about the purpose and the work that you do. And of course, writing and reviewing this document also allows all of you an opportunity to critically reflect on your program and again, plan for what you want your program to look like. And then the third final product is really just a culmination of these two other products that you work on throughout the year with your TA provider. And we refer to it as your finalized YECs Poster, which is just the Youth Empowerment Conceptual Framework poster, where you basically summarize the expectations, the outcomes that you're hoping to achieve, which that individual and group strategic plan map helps you to arrive at, and your group narrative, which kind of shows what the core processes are that you have your young people engaging in. This is always a really proud moment when we have these final products. They're often displayed at conferences where the adult allies and the participants in this experience have an opportunity to talk about their program and to network with others. And it's also really useful in the local environment to share and to deliver presentations with, to talk about the core purpose and outcomes that you're hoping to achieve with your youth-led program. So it really helps to validate and further define the work that you all do and that your young people are all doing in the community. So in terms of what to expect as kind of a synthesis of this brief overview, one of the things that you can anticipate with the Training Academy is that you'll receive a theoretical grounding for youth-led programs. The TTA process is also an opportunity for adult allies to invest in planning. So the training and technical assistance opportunity is really about you as an adult, and certainly it ends up impacting the work that you all do with your young people, but the training academies are not designed for young people themselves to be participants in. Again, it's going back to that notion of knowing that in order for young people to be successful, we need strong adult allies. So this is really a unique opportunity to focus on you and your plans and your work, and to learn from others as they're investing in their own planning as well. And then it's also an opportunity to really determine how are you going to engage young people in a strategic planning process. So what the training academies and the technical assistance process is it's not a training manual, and I've already addressed that, but what you will not receive is kind of a curriculum or a book on how to do this, but instead you'll receive and develop a variety of tools that will allow you to enact your plan. Again, this isn't an opportunity for young people to engage directly in this work, although it will certainly impact the direct work that young people do in your community as you plan and go through this process. It's just that the training academies themselves are not designed for young people to be present at. And this also isn't an opportunity to develop a strategic plan for your overarching organization. It's really an opportunity for you to develop your plans for your youth-led program so that ultimately your young people are able to develop a community strategic plan map that's designed to impact that community level change. So that is a brief overview of the training and technical assistance process. We have an entire team that works with us that's engaged in planning the training academies, and then that is engaged with all of you on a regular basis, providing that technical assistance. And again, that's individualized attention, so it is determined and based on your availability. So those technical assistance sessions that you'll be engaging in, when they occur and what work occurs during them, will be determined between you and your TA provider. This will be the third time that we have been offering the training academies, and we have learned so much from the past two experiences that we are just very, very eager and excited, both because of who we know is participating in the training academies this year, and because we have so much prior knowledge and experience, thanks to the adult allies who have gone through this process to date, to share with all of you and to have you all respond and provide feedback to. Every single time we do this, it strengthens youth-led programs in Ohio, and we're just so thankful that you all have chosen to be on this journey with us to continue to strengthen the work that's done around youth-led programming. And with that, I believe Karam is going to talk about some of the specific details then related to just the training academies and what people can anticipate before we open it up for some broader questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jessica. So let's kind of just get into some of the nuts and bolts of what we're going to have with our Adult Training Academy. First and foremost, the dates. So there are 4 in-person trainings. They're all on Fridays. They are September 8th, November 17th, February 16th, and June 1st. Now, these are our in-person trainings, but remember that the technical assistance will happen in between these dates. The training will take place at the Dublin Integrated Education Center. It's in Dublin, Ohio. The address, as you can see, is there, and we will be sending out maps and directions for you along with addresses when we send our reminder emails. So don't think you have to get it down there now. They will be from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and lunch will be provided. So that's something that you guys don't have to worry about. We will be taking care of lunch for you there. So then the question is maybe who should attend? So only the 2 individuals identified as participants in the grant application may attend the training academies. And yes, it must be 2. Like she said, we've been doing this for a few years, and we found that it's incredibly important to have the groups represented by at least 2 allies. The additional allies offer support, accountability, a partner, and in implementation. And in addition, we all learn and process things differently, and it's always helpful to have a backup in case we miss something. And just another clarification, I know we've said it a few times, but the youth from your group should be prepared to attend the We Are the Majority rally, as well as the Youth Summit in May, but it would not be appropriate for them to attend the training and technical assistance portions. These are for us to build our skills to be better equipped to work with them. And so let's talk a little bit about the fundings. So grant funds will be released quarterly upon completion of deliverables. Disbursements will take place on the following schedule: September, December, March, and June. The September disbursement will be going out the end of this week. So congratulations, we've all met our deliverables for the first part. But after that quarter one, the deliverables will be as follows. So completing all the pre-work and attending the Training Academy 1 for quarter 1, and then for the second quarter, completing the pre-work, attending the Training Academy, and attending the Adult Allies Summit, which is in December. Quarter 3 will be completing any pre-work. And when I say pre-work, I also mean that training and technical assistance that you'll be having in between your time with us when we have our meetings. We'll have that technical assistance in between time, so that's going to be important. And then for quarter 4, completing the pre-work, attending the academy, attending OPEC, attending the We Are the Majority rally, and then the Youth-Led Leadership Academy. So what I want to do now is just kind of open up the floor for some questions, but so that we don't have everyone yelling, what I'll do is as you enter those questions into your question box, I will read them out and then we will answer them to the entire group. So we'll take a couple minutes and just kind of hold and let you guys go ahead and enter any questions that you might have, and we'd be happy to answer them. Okay, so we have a couple questions coming in. The first question is, how would you like to handle the reporting of the use of funds? The expectation is that you will spend the funds in the way that you spent them in your budget narrative. And if there's going to be any deviation from that, that needs to be sent to us in writing. That needs to be approved in writing. And so the expectation is that you're going to follow what you put in your budget narrative, and there may be a report at the end if there's any idea that wasn't found. The next question is, please show the dates of the Columbus meetings again. So give me 1 second and I will go ahead and do that. Okay, great. Those dates should be on your screen now. The next question is, I may have missed the answer to this, but when will we know who our TA provider will be? That's actually Jessica. Could you help us out with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've learned from past experiences is that it really helps for us to have that initial training academy where you get to know the whole TA team and where we get to know you. And then during the second training academy in November, you will actually be paired with a specific TA provider based on your mutual interests and what seems to work. So you're going to have a nice opportunity to meet everyone at that first September 8th meeting, and then it'll be at the November 17th meeting where you would actually have that TA provider identified. So there'll be some pre-work that you start between September and November, which is really just designed for you to engage in to get you prepared for those technical assistance sessions, and then the majority of your TA sessions will occur between the November and June 1st dates. And I do want to remind you that between that timeline when those TA sessions occur is always based on the TA provider and your organization's specific availability. So there aren't set dates for that. There's just kind of set work that needs to be accomplished before the February meeting and then before the June meeting. But when that gets accomplished is based on your availability and schedule and the availability and schedule of your technical assistance provider. And similar to the training academies, the goal is that in those TA sessions, there are 2 participants. So the 2 people who attend the training academies should be the same 2 individuals who also participate in the technical assistance process. One of the reasons we found this to be particularly helpful is that sometimes there's turnover within organizations, sometimes life just happens and one person is available and another isn't. So for continuity and sustainability, we found that it's particularly effective to have 2 adults from each organization attend these opportunities.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jessica. Let me see here. The next question is there a specific format in which we would like you to submit your deliverables for reimbursement? There's no specific format. What will happen is, you'll be working with your TA and we will, as a team, work together to identify, that you have or have not met those things that were required. The next is, when will the dates be released for other events that are mandatory beyond the training academy? There will be save the date sent out for the youth-led academy. What I will do is I will send all of those dates together. So you should look for that within the next week prior to our September 8th meeting.
And Hiram, you have the date already for the Adult Ally Summit, correct? And then it would just be OPEC, that would be the other date. So that December 1st is the Adult Ally Summit.
December 1st is the Adult Ally Summit. April 19th is the We Are the Majority Rally. We just need to lock in the date for OPEC and lock in the date for the youth-led academy.
Great.
Okay. Is there anything in particular we need to bring or prepare for prior to the September 8th meeting?
There will be specific things that we'll ask you to prepare, and you can look for guidance on that coming next week. It will not be anything that is extremely time-consuming, but it will just be a brief introductory activity that will allow us to get to know each other. So we'll ask you to do some thoughtful planning and potentially some videotaping around how your youth-led program functions right now that we'll use as a way to introduce each other. But it will be a very quick assignment, and you can look for the specific directions on that following at the beginning of next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Any additional questions? So it says, do we just email you with our reimbursement request for completing our deliverables? No, that's not something that you will have to do. That is something that we will do. We will, come together as we'll come together as a team, and then we'll just send those out. There's no additional thing that you would have to do. You don't have to send an invoice or anything like that. I just want to give space, just another minute or so for anyone that might be still typing to kind of get their questions in. So while that's going, while we're waiting that minute, I want to say if you're looking for any additional information on the Ohio Adult Allies, some of the things that we may have done in the past or anything like that, you can find Ohio Adult Allies at these different places: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and at the website as you see it on your screen. I'll leave that for a second so you can go ahead and jot that down. Someone asked, can we have the PowerPoint from today? Yes, the PowerPoint will be made available, and also we have recorded this webinar, so we will make that available as well. Thanks, Brittany. All righty. For more information on Ohio Youth-Led Prevention Network, you can find us at our website. You can also find us at Be the Majority, In the Majority, and Be the Majority on several social media sites as well. And then I just want to say a quick thank you to Valerie for being with us today, and also to Jessica for being with us today as well. And then we have a few references. Again, this website will be made available. And thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I look forward to meeting and seeing all of you on September the 8th. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.